we could leak, and that is not what we want. But wow, like it is the absolute perfect dessert bread. We are going to use these Hershey's cinnamon chips to make one of the best loaves you're ever going to have. Today we have a fun one. We're gonna make a cinnamon swirl loaf. So I love sweet. Like I'm one of those people that, like, I don't understand when people say, oh, it's just too rich, it's too sweet. I'm like, what? That's not how I roll. So we are not only going to add the cinnamon chips, we're also going to do a cinnamon swirl throughout the. By far, it's one of the most requested loaves that I have from customers, and they just rave about it. So I'm excited to bring it to you, and I think you're gonna rave about it too. So let's get started. First, we're gonna do the normal recipe that I do for all of my loaves. So we are going to do 365 grams of water. Then we're going to do 125 grams of active starter. If you are struggling with your sourdough, you will hear me often say, it's your starter, it's your starter, it's your starter. And I stand by that. But if you really are struggling and you've done all of the things, you've watched all the videos on how to strengthen your starter, you know, you're feeding peak to peak, you're still struggling, it might be time to just call it and maybe purchase a starter, which I happen to have, a dehydrated starter, and you can be making like really good loaves in 5 days. So if you're struggling, it's something I would definitely look into, and you will be able to find all of the links in the description below. So now we've got our starter and our water, and we are just breaking that down until we get a white milky liquid. And then we're gonna add 500 grams of flour. Now, if all of this seems complicated, or maybe this is the first video you have come across of mine, I'd highly encourage you to go back and watch the beginner sourdough recipe video first, because that's going to give you like every single little detail. All of these things that maybe I'm not explaining here today, I have explained in that video. Anything that I wanted to know when I started making sourdough, I wanted all the details. I wanted to see what every single step looked like. I wanted to know what bulk fermentation even was. I didn't even understand what half of these words were. So that is the video I made because it's the video I wanted to see. It's going to be so helpful. So if you need to stop, go watch that one, then come back, then you can have all the fun with all the inclusions. So then we added 24 grams of salt, and mixing this one by hand, just because typically when I only do one loaf, it's just so much to clean the mixer. But I did just post a series of 3 little shorts that you can find on my channel where I experimented when I first got my Bosch mixer. And you'll see where I did a little bit and then I did way too much. And why don't I even have my apron on? So in those videos, you'll see where I tried mixing to a point of like kneading, like I would if I was making bagels or pizza dough or something when it's much less hydration, but I had no luck doing it that way. So you'll see just how I have found to use my mixer. What I have found is mixing it until I get a shaggy dough and then transferring it to my bowl and doing the rest by hand with the coil folds. But it still saved my shoulder quite a bit. We've got it all mixed. We've got our shaggy dough. I'm just going to use my bowl scraper, get that wet, and then just literally scraping the edges of the bowl to kind of keep it in a bit more of a ball shape. Okay, and then I'm gonna go in with one hand because I really just wanna make sure I've got every bit of that flour mixed. So just taking a little bit more time up front can really help develop the gluten, which means the structure in your dough. So if you're having trouble with like oven spring, this is one little thing you can do that can kind of make a big difference. Okay, so we're just gonna cover that, let it sit for 30 minutes, come back and do one coil fold. So I'll see you in a few. I am using the proofing box today. I've got it set at 79 degrees. So I think based on time, should be about 4 to 5 hours for a full bulk fermentation. So that starts the second that we mix our dough until our first shaping. Now I'm gonna do coil folds, which if, again, you have no idea what I'm talking about, watch the beginner sourdough tutorial. And it will explain all of that, why I believe that coil folds are superior. And I've had a lot of people that have also told me they started doing coil folds and that they had such a great experience. So I think you should try them as well, but literally that's it. Then 30 more minutes, then we'll add in the cinnamon chips. Now we're gonna go in with our cinnamon chips, and I've weighed out about 100 grams. So I personally like adding the inclusions, especially small ones like this, during the folding process, because I feel like it helps them be like evenly distributed throughout the loaf. Then I'm just going to pull up on one side, and I'm gonna give that a big stretch. You can see we're just trying to keep the inclusions on the inside, basically. And then we're going in with a little bit more, and then we're gonna give it another big pull and fold it over. And then I'm gonna put the rest of the cinnamon chips in there. And then I give it a turn, pull it up, and at this point you can see it's like barely stretching. So now the goal is to get this back into a ball shape, because now we've got kind of a mess with the dough. So then I'm going to go back in and kind of pull the dough in against the bowl toward me. I would consider this like a form of kneading the dough a little bit, but I'm just gonna do it until I get almost all of those cinnamon chips on the inside. We're gonna let that sit then for another 30 minutes, and then we'll come in and do one more coil fold. We're gonna do another set of coil folds. So I'm just going to grab the dough kind of from the top third portion, and I'm gonna pull it up and roll it underneath itself. So we're just trying to create a ball. And now we're trying to be a little bit more gentle, as we can see that fermentation process has begun. We're getting some nice bubbles in there. So sometimes I barely am even using like 2 fingers, and then you're just kind of letting gravity do the work for you. And so that's it. She looks great. So now I'm done touching the dough. We're just gonna let it continue to rise for a couple more hours. The cinnamon sugar swirl consists of cinnamon, brown sugar, and then the secret ingredient here is the cornstarch. We've got about 70 grams of brown sugar, 10 grams of cinnamon, and 2 grams of the cornstarch. And the cornstarch is just going to help keep the loaf from leaking. And I would say if you've ever made a cinnamon swirl loaf, you know what I'm talking about. When you put it in your Banneton and then you go to get it the next morning and it's like seeping all around. So that is what we are trying to avoid. But I'm gonna get my counter cleaned off. I'm gonna grab the bowl, Banneton, and then we'll start shaping. I'm gonna dust the Banneton with rice flour. I'm gonna set that aside. I'm gonna spray the bench scraper and my hands with a little bit of water. I've just wiped down the counter with a little bit of water. And I'm going to stretch this out. We're gonna do kind of like a lamination. So we're gonna go for a nice large rectangle. I think The biggest fear when shaping always is ripping a hole in your dough. So you really want to be gentle. You want to kind of work just little bits at a time. You don't want to take any big section and pull too hard. And then you can kind of see I'm like pulling from the center, so I'm not just pulling from the outer edges. And basically we're just kind of getting this as big as possible so that we can layer our cinnamon swirl, because we want it to look beautiful when we cut open. Okay, so I feel like that's pretty good. And so now you're just going to start sprinkling. You're going to just make sure that mixture's really well combined, not too clumpy. And so then I just start sprinkling all the way around. You're going to leave a little bit around the edges though. So when you're doing this, and if you've ever had it leak out, it could be that you just got your cinnamon swirl mixture too close to the edges. So just something to think about. Leave a little bit of a border. Okay, so another thing I'm going to think about is I'm going to fold in, let's see, I'm going to fold in here, and then I'm going to fold in here, and then I'm going to roll my log up this way. So first, I'm going to bring one side in, and then I'm going to seal the edges. And we're just going to throw any loose cinnamon chips. So we're sealing both of these edges because that is another place where we can leak, and that is not what we want. So you can see here, I'm still leaving a little bit of an edge on that side where I'm not going all the way over. And then I'm gonna bring this one, and basically I just wanna get at least covering this part of the dough, but I don't wanna make my log so narrow when I roll it up. I want it to be, you know, close to the width of the banneton. And now we're gonna do the same thing. So when I roll this, I'm gonna roll this way. So I'm gonna leave a little bit of a section here where I'm not gonna get any of that cinnamon mixture. And same thing, we're not going too close to either edge. Okay, so I'm gonna get a little bit of rice flour ready. I'm going to spray my hands again, and then I'm just gonna roll, and then after I get this all rolled up, that last little bit I'm gonna try to cover. I'll just show you. Stop talking, Alicia, and just do it. Okay, so we're just rolling and kind of trying to keep everything in there combined. And then once I get here, now I'm gonna try to pull this because I wanna almost cover everything, even the sides. So I'm gonna pull that pretty tight. And then I'm gonna pull those pieces right over because we're all thinking about locking in that cinnamon. Okay. And then this, you can't really see that here, but I've got the seam, and so that's gonna go right on the top. So just like that. I'll wait a few minutes and maybe just do a little bit of stitching, but I would say overall that looks pretty good. So then she'll go in the fridge overnight and I will bake in the morning. It's so bright. I apologize. I'm gonna try not to squint, but I shouldn't be complaining that the sun is shining because it is deep in February and I am ready for summer. I am so excited to cut into this loaf. I think it turned out great. Something that you'll see when you add inclusions is you're definitely not gonna get probably the same rise that you normally would. So don't be like too discouraged by that. There's a lot going on in this loaf. So let's cut into it. This is probably my husband's favorite loaf for me to bake, just solely on the way that it makes our house smell. And yeah, it is phenomenal. Look at that. I love it so much. Like, these are the things that like light my soul on fire. Like, this just makes me happy to see like all of the rings. It looks great. And again, the cinnamon chips are not dairy-free. So I prepped myself with some enzymes. If you have no idea what I'm talking about, watch the protein powder recipe. But look how cute. Like, looks so good. I don't know if you can even see, but the swirls are beautiful. And they, yeah, I'm gonna stop talking so I can try it. Like, I just get so much of the cinnamon flavor with the chips and the swirl. Like, it is the absolute perfect dessert bread. You're gonna wanna make this like yesterday. So go feed your starter right now so you can make it. I think we nailed it. This is also just the easiest way to cut slices of sourdough. Way easier than trying to cut all the way along this way. Like, I'll just try one like that, but you'll see like it just smushes the whole thing down, and to me is just so much harder. And then you got to have like a special toaster to get that thing in the toaster. One thing about these sweet loaves is it's definitely going to burn more on the bottom just from the sugar, the caramelization, but it does not affect the flavor whatsoever. But so, I mean, it's possible to take your big slice, but this is just much more convenient. But she is pretty. I hope that you enjoyed watching this video. I hope that you learned something. I hope that you got something out of how to do the cinnamon swirl. I hope that I could help with that. And if I did, as always, I'm gonna ask you to like this video, interact, comment. I really do love it. Like, tell me the things you wanna see in the comments. I will do my best to bring that to you. And I really appreciate you watching this video, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye. Te fuiste cerrando